Hello and welcome back to Suspended Fanimation. I'm your host, Dennis Batholkis, and this is Gotham, Season 5, Episode 8, Nothing's Shocking. Hello, everybody in the chat, all three of you. Looks like Slurmy Scott, Penn Farm Girl, and probably the Filthy News out there. So, before I get started here, I'm going to say, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the episode, go and watch it, and then come on back here. This will be a video, and then you can come on and comment down below in the comment section. Thank you, Viking Bitch, for the paddle. So I just saw that Slurmy, you don't watch Gotham, you haven't watched Batman since Adam West. I understand. Like I said, Gotham is not a show for everybody. Hey, Stanley Tweedle, how's it going? It's really not a show for everybody, and like I said, it's one of my guilty pleasures. It's a train wreck of a show, but I like it. I don't take it seriously. I'm not a purist when it comes to this show. Some people scream and yell about, it's not Batman. I don't care. Yes, it's not Batman. It is what it is. So it's fun. Exactly, Penn Farm Girl. It's well done for what it is. And honestly, I like Barbara. She just, she plays crazy very, very well. That's all I can say. So let's get started, huh? So we're at Siren, speaking of which, and they're having a party going on. And these two old guys come in. And Barbara, of course, gives them shit. She goes, I can't have you two fossils hanging around here. What do you got for me? Your info better be good. And so they give her some info about some black market oil, where it's located at. And she goes, that's good for one drink. And you have to share, is what she tells them. And so they're sitting there at the bar and they're getting ready to order their drink when Dix comes in. Dix is Harvey's old partner, who we met in, God, I want to say it was like season 1, season 2, something like that. And he comes back, and he's kind of got his hands on their shoulders there. And he was in a wheelchair before, so it's kind of surprising to see him walk. And he says, remember about what they did to that girl? And they're like, what girl? And he goes, that girl, what we did to her. And then he stabs them, in both of them in the neck at the same time, and then walks away. And Barbara actually sees him and confronts him as he's walking away and says, you old fossils need to leave the bar. And then she looks down and sees that these guys are just kind of got blood spurting out of their necks and are dying there as he disappears. In the meantime, Alfred and Bruce are talking to a woman who's pretty beaten up. I mean, she's got bandages around her and everything, and said that they had heard something down in the sewer area, the basement of their building, and they went down to go investigate, her and her husband. And this happened to her. She got knocked out, and when she woke up, her husband was missing. And so she asked them if they can please find her husband, because, they got a little girl and all this kind of stuff. And so they, Alfred says, I think we should go to Gordon with this. And Bruce is like, Gordon is stretched thin. There's no way. Let's go and do it ourselves. Of course. Yeah. So Barbara ends up bringing in Harvey and Gordon to take a look at the two old guys that died in her bar. She goes, oh, we just tossed them out, tossed their bodies out into the street. But I figured you guys might be interested in this. And she said, whoever killed the two guys, she found out a name, and she said it was Vix or Hicks or something like that. And that's when Harvey goes, Dix? There's no way. The guy's in a wheelchair. Did he wheel out of here? And she goes, no, he walked out. So they're very intrigued at this point. In the meantime, Ed is trying to work on the submarine parts. He's working on the sonar when his elaborate alarm system rings. It's basically a whole bunch of like school bells that are tied up to strings, and those start ringing. He pulls out a gun, and who walks in but Penguin? And he goes, you're late by a couple hours. You're supposed to be here hours ago. And who does Penguin have but this big guy? He goes, I was out procuring muscle. And of course, Ed is pissed off because he doesn't want any more people knowing about their plan. And he goes, this guy's perfect. He's mute and he's dumb. So he's a perfect muscle for us. In the meantime, Ed is kind of pissed off about the division of labor here, since he's doing all the labor and Penguin's doing nothing at all. And as they're squabbling about this, they have another ring at the door, and who walks in but who Penguin keeps calling Penn. It was his right-hand man who supposedly died. He got shot in the chest after the siege that happened at GCPD, but he's alive and well. And they're like, what happened to you? How'd you get in? How'd you survive? And he goes, wait a minute, I've got something to show you. And he opens up his case, and he says, the reason why I haven't, let you know that I was alive until now is because he wouldn't let me. And he pulls out a ventriloquist dummy out of his case that he's carrying, and it's Mr. Scarface. He's got a big Scarface down here. He looks like Al Capone, if you will, mobster type. And for those of you who don't know who this character is the ventriloquist, which I was kind of surprised that they actually brought the ventriloquist there. It was very interesting. And it turns out that Arthur, which is his name, was not dead when he got shot in the chest. He wakes up in the GCPD morgue, patched himself up, and crawled over to the nearby magic shop, where he found Scarface and told Scarface about all the evil things that Penguin had done to him and everything that had happened to him as well. So Harvey and Gordon at the meantime are visiting Dix. They go and knock on his door, and of course Dix greets them with a shotgun blast to the door. They bust in, of course, and he's still in a wheelchair. And they ask him where he was last night, and he's like, I was right here. And he's got a bag packed and everything, and he knows about the 2 cops that were killed. So it's all kind of suspicious at this point. He goes, you know what? He goes, if I could have walked in, he goes, I would confess that I was the one who did it. And just as they're arguing about this, who did it, and he says, he's probably going to be next. They get a knock at the door. Harvey opens it, and who's standing there but Dix? Or not really Dix, the guy who can walk. And he shoves Harvey. Harvey grabs him and grabs his face and pulls off his face. And it's human skin and everything with blood. And you're like, what the hell? And whatever this thing is gets away from them. In the meantime, Alfred and Bruce are down in the sewer. And they find out that the sewer is running along. It's a sewer basement, if you will. So they're walking down this basement, and the basement is literally, the wall is right up against the sewer. So the sewer, right up against the river. The river is contaminated at this point. And and I love Alfred's like, well, don't get any of it on you. It's like, dude, you might want to be in hazmat suits at this point, because you really don't want to be down there at all, depending on what the hell was in that shit that Jeremiah threw in there. And what do they find? But they find a hand that was actually bitten off. It was gnawed off by something human. Yeah, kind of nasty. And so they decide to follow the blood trail, because that's what you want to do when you find a bitten off hand. So at the GCPD, Gordon had one of the cops pull the Cartwright case, because that's the case that Harvey and the 2 dead cops and Dix had worked on 20 years ago. All 4 of them, kind of suspiciously. And so the whole case was about a woman who shot her her husband, killed him, excuse me, then went back on saying that she was the one that did it, until the daughter gave the testimony that her mom did it. And then her daughter ended up in Arkham Asylum and supposedly died there. And this all happened about 20 years ago. So Gordon doesn't believe Harvey and Dix. Their stories are a little too rehearsed. So he says, you know what, we're going to go and visit their home to see if we can find any clues, but I'm leaving you behind. You watch Dix. Yeah. You watch Dix. That's all I'm going to say. And in the meantime, Arthur and Scarface show Penguin and Ed who's in charge. He's got a gun, and he's holding it on them at this point. And he wants to show them that he's in charge. And so what do? He kills the mute guy, the big mute guy. And so he is now in charge. And he wants to know where Penguin's treasure is at this point. In the meantime, Dix is saying that the Cartwright girl died a few years ago at Arkham. That's what he heard. And he tells Harvey there's nothing to worry about, which, of course, are famous last words. Always famous last words. So Gordon and the GCPD go and investigate in the Cartwright house. Basically, Gordon and two other cops, one detective and another cop. So Gordon and the detective are downstairs looking around through the like the living room and stuff like that, and they see family photos with all the faces scratched out except for the mom. And the cop is by himself upstairs because, it's always good to split up. And he's looking around and finds a whole bunch of these faces just sitting there on a little table. And he's looking around and he's like, hello, hello. And he gets knocked down by someone with a mask on, this white mask over their face. And this person takes off the white mask. We never see their face, and touches the cop's face. And we see their hands start rippling and turning mannish. It's a woman that, first of all, you can tell from the body and everything, and also the dress that she's wearing. But then again, men wear dresses too sometimes. So she turns into the cop. That's what happens there. And puts on his clothes. And so Gordon and the detective have gone upstairs, going, look, see what happened, because they saw the chandelier move when the cop dropped. And they end up finding, all the faces and all this kind of stuff. And they think it's kind of weird. And then they find the cop, or what they think is the cop, and say, hey, what's going on? And he's like, oh, nothing to find up here. Nothing to see here, essentially. And then, of course, the detective finds the cop that has been knocked out. And mayhem ensues. Gordon punches the fake cop in the face, and she reverts back to herself and says, don't look at me. Don't look at me. I'm a monster. So, yeah. And we get her back at GCPD, and Gordon has her in cuffs and is questioning her about what happened, and said, take the mask off. He goes, if you don't tell me, if you don't start talking, I'm going to reach across the table and rip that mask off your face. And so then he asks, what happened to you? She goes, nothing happened to me. I've always been. He goes, okay, what happened to Jane at Arkham? And we get the story that Hugo Strange had taken Jane and experimented on her, of course, until she could change and take on different personalities. But she remembers all the personalities of the people that she's touched. So it's kind of fucked up. They're all in her head. And she's now Jane Doe, is what she calls herself. And then she tells Gordon that, excuse me, if he wants to know why she killed those cops, he has to ask Harvey. And so Gordon goes outside to go and find out what Harvey knows. And while he's out there, she slips out of her cuffs. She actually gets her hand to contort enough where she can just slip it right out of the cuffs. Pretty disgusting. So Alfred and then Bruce, in the meantime, find this woman's husband. And he actually literally runs into them. And he's escaped from something. He doesn't know what it is. And he's just trying to get out. And, of course, this thing finds them. Knocks down Alfred and Bruce, grabs this guy and starts dragging him down the hallway. And of course, they follow after him. In the meantime, the ventriloquist wants their guns and tells his story again about waking up in the morgue. So I kind of jumped the gun on that one a little bit. And of course, he wants the Penguin's treasure. And Ed asks him, well, what are you going to do with that treasure after you're done with it? He's like, once you get your hands on it. It's like, he goes, well, we're working on a plan to get out of here, to build a sub. Do you want to come along? How do you feel about submarines is what he asks. And, of course, Penguin is not happy about this. So in the meantime, Harvey is talking to Dix, and he's wheeling him back into the changing room, into the locker room. And he's talking to Dix about making the girl a murderer. And he's like, what do you mean? I didn't make the girl a murderer. And that's when we find out it's not the real Harvey. It's, of course, the girl who has escaped and taken on Harvey's persona and his clothing. And, excuse me, strangles Dix with a belt. And in the meantime, Gordon comes back in. Excuse me. And, Barbara comes in and tells Gordon that she remembers one other thing. That the girl is a killer too, that she heard there was something else that the killer had said at the bar, was that the kid was also a killer. And this will be important a little bit later on here. And of course, they're trying to find out where the hell, Harvey is. He's trying to find out where Harvey is. And they said, well, Harvey wheeled Dix into the back room. And we're like, okay. And that's when he sees Harvey coming down the stairs. He goes, wait, weren't you with Dix? He goes, no. They go running back into the locker room, and Dix is dead. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. Excuse me. In the meantime, Alfred and Bruce are battling this creature, and Bruce finds a way of, he gets his knife gets broken up into little pieces, and he takes these pieces and he throws them at the creature, and hurts it enough where Alfred can just start swinging his flashlight and starts he's literally going to bash this guy's head in until it says stop, stop, and that's when Bruce tells Alfred, stop, man, you're going to kill him. And so they actually stop beating this guy, and they've saved this woman's husband, and also have taken this, I guess you could say, an affected person out of the sewer there too. GCPD is on lockdown at this point because now they found Dick's body, and that's when Barbara, with some blood on her dress, comes out and says that something attacked her, and she said it went that way, of course. And who comes out from behind her? But it's Barbara, another Barbara. And this Barbara's like, what the hell, man? That's the creature. I'm not the creature. We've seen this before. And they're like, well, which one's the real one? And Barbara behind her says, duh, I'm the real one. And she's got the gun, of course. And what happens is that Jane Doe ends up taking Barbara hostage, but Barbara slips out of it, not before getting punched in the stomach by a new. So I'm pretty sure that baby's going to miscarry at this point as well because of that punch to the stomach, and takes off, gets out of GCPD. Scarface decides to go in with the submarine plan, but he says, you know what? I only need the brains. I don't need Penguin. So he's going to kill Penguin for everything that he's done. And Penguin starts talking to Arthur about how good he had it, that he found him when he was starving and all this kind of stuff, and was trying to help him. And he's like, yeah, he goes, I'm a bad person. He's going into all his whole personal stuff, and Scarface is still going to kill him when Ed activates the sonar, which distracts him long enough for Penguin and Scarface to wrestle with the gun, and Penguin blows off the doll's head, which kind of releases Arthur from, his fugue, if you will. And, Penguin's glad to have Arthur back and everything. And they're, Arthur's still on top of him, kind of. And that's when there's bang, and we see his head get shot, Arthur, and blood gets splattered onto Penguin. He's like, what the hell? And Ed says, you know what? He had to go. You don't realize it, but he was the problem. And if we let him live, he was still going to be a problem. And that's when Penguin does this really weird, you know what? I guess we are meant to be together, which is just very weird. I don't think it's going to be heavy for this show, honestly, Stormy Scott, for her to miscarry. It was one of those things that we know is going to, there's no way that Gordon can have another family out there, if you will. So I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. Yeah, Pen Farm Girl. I don't know. Was Arthur really crazy, or the puppet really alive? Because he did find it in a magic shop. And we know that magic works in the DC universe anyway. So I don't know if they're going to work with magic or not on this one. That'd be kind of interesting. So Harvey ends up going to Jane's house by himself, up into the attic, and finds her. Excuse me. And apologizes to her. He says, I was supposed to protect you, and I didn't. And she has a gun and wants him to shoot her, basically, is what she wants. And she goes, yeah, you are responsible for what happened, for making me a killer and everything. Shoot me, shoot me. And he says, well, I want to see what your face looks like, kind of thing. So he has her pull up the mask, and her face is perfectly fine. She's just broken on the inside at this point. And she brings up the gun, and she's only one of us is gonna leave here alive. And Harvey shoots her right in the chest, because she swings up that gun pretty fast, and he shoots her right in the chest with instinct. And she is dead. She just drops down. So in the meantime, Bruce, has reunited the husband and wife, and he says to Alfred, the doctor said he's taken a look over the guy that they, almost beat to death down the sewer, and he is irreparably damaged by whatever toxin was in the river, and is not going to change back to normal. So kind of messed up. And then he also tells Alfred that Alfred isn't responsible for Wayne Manor being destroyed, and to get over it, basically, and that they're family, and that's how it goes. So finally, at the end, we have Harvey telling Jim the whole story about what happened, how the mother originally confessed to killing the father, and then was going back on it. So he leaned on the girl to get her to confess, and he was responsible for what happened and making her a killer. And Gordon says the right thing. He's like, well, what do you want from me? He goes, like, I can't give you, forgiveness or anything like that. And he goes, nope, I just wanted to tell you, let you know. It's like, damn, okay. That was kind of a throwaway line right there, but okay, if that's what you want. And that's where we leave off on this episode. Excuse me. So Barbara Gordon won't be born before the end of the show. No, Joker. Barbara Gordon, he hasn't even met his wife yet. Jim Gordon hasn't met his wife yet. So, yeah. Penn Farm Girl says, but after Lee lost the baby, I'm not sure they'll do it again. I wouldn't put it past them, honestly, Penn. Just because it is Bruno Heller, and it is season 5. It is their last season, and that would tie up loose ends kind of nicely. Yes, he does have 2 crazy ex-fiancées as well. He really does. I mean, and that Lee turns out to be, a doctor of the Narrows and all that kind of stuff, at least in the comics and the animated series and that kind of stuff. And there is, I mean, in the comics lately, I know that Lee has kind of been retconned to go in with Hush, the Hush storyline and all that kind of stuff. She was one of the cover-up people and all this stuff that we just recently found out about. I want to say it was like 6 months ago, something like that. Or 8 months ago. Might have been a year ago. Who knows? So, yeah, all kinds of weird stuff, both in the comics and the show. Slurmy Scott says, true, Bruno Heller goes for the dramatic. He even killed off Julius Caesar. Yeah, I mean, I see what you did there, Slurmy Scott. That's pretty funny. He even killed off Julius Caesar. So yeah, it was an interesting episode. I mean, we got the ventriloquist and Killer Croc introduced in this episode, and Jane Doe, this character Jane Doe, which strangely enough was almost like Clayface. One of the versions of Clayface 2, I think is what it is. So there's Clayface 1, 2, and 3, and I want to say there's 4, but I think there's Clayface 1, 2, and 3. And if I'm not mistaken, Clayface 2 is what she turned out to be. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Joe Greer. That's and that they named her, Jane Doe instead. It was kind of interesting. And if I honestly don't know enough about the different types of Clayfaces that they had, because that part of the comic lore, I wasn't reading comics at that point. I'm actually not reading comics right now. So there we go. Yeah, Clayface did have a really good story arc on the animated series. So, wow. So let me get some business out of the way here. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. Also hit the like button. If you don't like what you see, hit the dislike button. If you want to know when I'm going to be on live next, hit the little bell. You have a 50-50 chance of being notified by YouTube when I'm going to be on next live. Isn't that right, Slurmy? Did you get your notification in time this time, or did you just come in because I have an actual schedule up? So, and if you want to know when my schedule is, it's up on suspendedfanimation.com. All one word, Suspended Fanimation. And you can see my schedule up there. You can also see the schedule up on Facebook. I have a Facebook page for that as well. Yes, I know I'm old, so I have Facebook still. And I'm also on Twitter, and I'm on Instagram. So I need to start posting some more stuff on Instagram. I haven't done that in a while. Tomorrow is going to be Doom Patrol from DC Universe. It's going to be episode 3. Excuse me. Saturday at 10 a.m. is going to be Saturday Morning Blast Off. That is where I take the news of the week, all the genre news of the week, talk about that, plus anything genre that you guys want to talk about. And you guys can all come in the chat. It's one of the best chats around. And what about MySpace? I think my MySpace page might still be up. I haven't checked, Stanley Tweedle. How about Friendster? I know my Friendster page is down. Slurmy Scott says, got noticed, but after you were live. Says live 24 minutes ago. Nice. Very nice. I'm glad it doesn't give out any notifications at all. Pen Farm Girl says, I haven't signed up for DC yet to watch Doom Patrol. If you're tight on cash, Pen Farm Girl, I would say just wait until it airs. They are going to be doing some good stuff because after this, I want to say is Swamp Thing. Is that right? After Doom Patrol airs its entire seasons, because it's 13 episodes, then it goes into Swamp Thing. And I can't remember what comes after that now. Stargirl is after that. So, yeah. And Stargirl's got an amazing cast as well. So it's interesting. You got your notification, Pen Farm Girl? Nice. And then we also had news that Constantine might be coming back. And if that's the case with Matt Ryan, my bet is it's going to be DC Universe that they're going to put this on. Yeah, exactly, Slurmy Scott. They offer a 7-day free trial. You can wait till all the episodes are on and then binge the crap out of it. So, and it's good. Doom Patrol really, really did a 180 from what Titans was. Titans was crap. The very, very end of Titans, like if you go through the credits of the very last episode and then watch the little blurb at the end of that, that's the only thing that Titans is good for. After that, and also their episode of Doom Patrol. Their episode of Doom Patrol was really good as well. But other than that, no. Horrible. If Constantine returns, well, that's the plan. Supposedly that's what they're doing. And they're bringing back Matt Ryan. So we'll see. And I'm guessing that's where it's going to land. Yeah, Dresden's not a DC property, unfortunately. But Constantine is. And Matt Ryan is just so good as Constantine. He's fun. He's a lot of fun. So with that said, if you're still on the fence about joining up, you're going to see some videos up in this area here. You can click on that video and see. It's basically videos from my video library that are tailored to your taste. They go by your algorithm and pick the best one and throw it out there at you. And if you like it, then you can hit the subscribe. You can hit the subscribe button that's over here as well. And you get wonderful stuff like that I don't edit out at all. I don't do any editing on any of these videos whatsoever because I'm lazy and I don't have time. And pretty much I figure it's a little, it's quaint to have all these mistakes and crap in there. And people always do freeze frames of different facial expressions that I'm doing because I guess I do a lot of weird facial expressions here and there. Slurmy Scott says, I'm rewatching Umbrella Academy. Damn, now I am craving an eclair. So, with that said, I want to thank everyone in the chat. Slurmy Scott, Stanley Tweedle, Pen Farm Girl, Joe Greer III. I know the Filthy News was in here earlier. And who else do I have in here? I think that is it at the moment. Oh, and Ricardo Aspie. I forgot you were in here too. Hello, Ricardo. And I believe that is it. Yes. So, come on by again tomorrow. Doom Patrol is going to be on there. And after that, Saturday, come on by. I think Sunday I'm going to take off. I'm going to rest and relax and then come back on Monday with Future Man and continue Future Man as well. Excuse me. So with that said, take a look at the videos, hit the subscribe, and don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may run into some contaminated guy down in the sewer or basement of a place, and he's bitten off someone's arm, and you have to fight him for whatever leftover scraps are there.